Hey, you guys, welcome to the intuitive scale module. So, I want to share this concept with you guys. This is actually a concept that I came up with years ago, and I'm so glad that Bethany brought it up on her journey where she's not actually looking at or using the scale herself. So, what can we do? Other than obviously, you guys know there's multiple different ways to track, and I hope you're doing more than just the scale. Right now, we're doing this lose 7 pounds in 7 weeks challenge. And I really would always implore you guys to have a goal beyond the scale, always, 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 whether that's to maintain, that's around running, that's around a new lift PR, that's around a certain amount of workouts a week, trying something new, just doing something new or being consistent, whatever it is, but having some other way to track than just the scale. So, and if you don't want to use the scale now, or you don't want to use the scale ever, quite honestly, I'm like kind of getting like stoked over here to think about like, what if I've had this kind of vision, daydream, I don't know, of like us all like throwing the scales away, like off bridges or like off a mountain and just like, like crashing the scales, crashing and breaking. And it kind of, I'm like, reminds me of like, what is it, the 60s when like the women's movement and like bras or like whenever that was, when women were like, F this, taking these things off, stop training us down. And maybe that's the newest version of that, is like fucking throwing these scales away and off, and us not being tied to them, our worth, our results, like what we're doing being tied to it so much. So that was kind of a rant on that, but it's just like, this is where my brain goes when I'm like, oh God, the freedom I want us all to have around the scale, basically. And with the numbers. If you don't have any problem with the numbers, great. I generally don't. And honestly, most of the times I might weigh myself like a handful of times in a year. Like, and honestly, it's usually just confirming what I already know, which is what we're going to learn today, the intuitive scale. So I just want to like kind of open this module and this whole scale kind of conversation, like, just because we've kind of been conditioned and thought, or even diet culture told, oh, you need to weigh yourself every day or even once a week, or we need to weigh ourselves. Like, what is our body weight? Like, we should know that. Like, there's a lot of different ways we can do this, you guys, right? We do things different here. And so if it's, and I think the filter I want you to take any of this through is like, does it serve you? Right? That's all it comes back to. It's like having that awareness and to ask yourself the question, does this serve me? And if you know what, weighing in every day serves you, amen, go for it. If you weighing in once a week serves you, go for it. Right? If never weighing in at all, ever using a scale, ever again in your whole ever life serves you, go ahead. Amen. Right? And there's a lot of middle ground even within that, like how I've been doing, right? Like I just like randomly weigh myself generally throughout the year, like really randomly. I am weighing myself right now because I want to specifically show you guys the results and be able to show those, like, no, quite literally, these are the results. So I really want to be clear with that this challenge. But generally, I'm not weighing myself otherwise, right? So let's talk about this intuitive scale concept. If this is like, you're like, oh, I kind of, tell me about this, and maybe I'll explore this now or even at a future time when it feels right. Or like, so anytime this feels right to use this. So the intuitive scale concept is really quite literally, it's about, instead of us having to see that number, quite literally getting on the scale and see that number, most of us know, just like you guys have heard me say in the modules, are like, we know what to do and what's going on. We just don't trust ourselves, or we like want to make that number mean something, right? Like there's this like tethered attachment to it. We know we are so freaking smart. So in the sense that, like, I would bet every single one of you, and my hand is raised here, and that's why I even came up with this. I bet every single one of you, if after a week of eating, if that was like you stayed on plan and you did your healthy eating, right? I bet at the end of that week, you got all, you were like a B plus A student almost. Like you were just, it was that week. I bet if you didn't, you would tell me at the end of that week, you could literally tell me, no, I feel like I've lost weight, whether it's a pound or 2 pounds. And I bet you could even tell me that because most of us have used the scale enough times. We've stepped on and off every day at some point in our lives or once a week, on our period, off our period, when we're eating healthy, when we're not, when we're gone for vacation, when we're not, right? Like we have stepped on the scale to have so much data and information about when I weigh X pounds, I look like this. When I weigh X pounds and I'm 5 or 10 pounds or 20 pounds heavier, whatever it is, I look like this, right? And when I lose weight, I feel and look like this. And so I really want to offer that most of us know. You know, if you've had a really healthy week of eating, like I did the first week of the challenge, went so well overall. I knew I got on the scale to like be like, okay, I'm going to prove this to you guys and be able to share this and show this as data and facts for someone who just wouldn't believe that because it's not just for me. I knew. I I could feel it. I could see it in my stomach. I knew it and I felt it. Now, whether it was, I was generally like, I feel like this might be a pound, maybe 2 pounds roughly is where I was at. I definitely didn't think it was more than 2 pounds. Like I wasn't like, oh, I've lost 5 pounds this week. No, we know, we know, right? And reverse, most of us know when we have kind of gone off the handles, said F it to the plan, had a little too much dessert, had a little too much cake and cookies and eating out or fettuccine or whatever it was, right? Most of us know when how we feel and how we look, again, just those 1 to 2 pounds, most of us know, or our clothes will tell us, right? If that's the week we had. So you do not need to get on a scale to tell you whether you've gained or lost weight. That is essential. So the intuitive scale concept is really that you know, and you get to check in with yourself, whether you want to do a daily check-in, you want to do a weekly check-in, do a monthly check-in, but for you to be able to quite literally pause for a moment and ask yourself, like, how do I feel? And there's a couple parts to this, okay? But that's the concept, is you get to decide what level or amount of check-ins, if it's daily, if it's weekly, every 2 weeks, every month, whatever amount of time, or if it's random, but you don't actually step on a scale. You intuitively ask yourself from your gut, from your core, from your best knowing of what do I feel? Do I feel like I lost weight, I gained weight, or I maintained? And to what degree? Do I feel like I lost 1 pound, 2 pounds, didn't lose any, maintained? What do I feel? And just like honestly, the scale, the scale is a number in data, but you all know if you step on a doctor's office scale, you step on my scale, you step on your scale, you're going to most likely 3 different numbers, right? So a scale is not exact either, my friends. A scale is, again, simply a number, a data point of number. We make it mean something when it's different from there to there to there. Or we make it mean something when it says 2 pounds heavier on the scale, that number. But guess what? It's just a number. Just like intuitively, you're never going to be perfect about it. Look, 1 week, maybe you're like, I think I only lost a pound because you're not so used to this and you're not really trusting yourself yet. And we're not quite in the like it's working zone yet. So you're like, I think I lost a pound this week. I think that's probably it. Okay, that's fine. We do not need to have exact. You will know if it's like 1 to 2 pounds or if it's like, no, I've lost like 3 to 5 pounds. You would know. You know it. I would know, right? We all would know it, right? So this is not an exact science with the intuitive scale. And guess what? If you didn't know this already, it is not an exact science with stepping on any scale you have at home. Now, where the exactness comes in is in the consistency of using the same tool over and over, right? So if you're going to weigh in on a scale, you want to use the same scale and weigh in generally at the same time every time you weigh in, right? You wouldn't want to weigh on my scale and then weigh on your scale and then weigh on Susie's scale. And then no, you weigh on the same scale every time for that consistency. So I would ask you to honor that for the intuitive scale. And you can of course play around in this, right? We can play on the playground if you're like, I want to do the intuitive scale and then I want to check in and see what the results are. It's okay. I've done that game to be able to give this concept to you guys. Or like before I get on the scale, I'm like, I know where I'm at. And I could just quite literally tell you, yep, that was going to be a 138 day. Like I could have told you that. I got on the scale anyway that day to see it, right? It's like, oh, confirmed my intuitive scale concept. So if you need to play around in that, that's okay. But generally, if you're going to do this intuitive scale concept, go with it. Like use that as your measure, right? You can do it. Okay, so I want to offer just a couple things when you are checking in with this intuitive skill, because sometimes we may be a little bit off because we have a lot of old thoughts and stories and patterns and beliefs about the skill that can block us from like our gut, what we feel and think, right? Because if you mentally had a really shitty day, like the last couple days, and your brain, just like when you get coached, your brain's like, oh, you didn't do that great this week. You didn't get all your workouts in. You ate like crap over the weekend, right? Like if our brain starts to go shit show on us, then your thought or your feeling when you check in with yourself and be like, oh, I probably gained 2 pounds. I probably gained 3 pounds. Like, right? It's on the shit show frame of intuitive scale. Do not intuitively weigh in, just like you wouldn't step on the scale, right? You don't step on the scale when you're like, oh, I feel like shit. I just ate a burger and fries and I didn't work out today. Let me go step on the scale, right? No, you don't do that. So don't do that with the intuitive scale either, okay? Don't shit on yourself, okay? So you want to quote unquote step on the intuitive scale and check in with yourself when you are in that 2.0 version of yourself, that mental state where you can separate the facts from your thoughts. So, and honestly, I would even encourage this like after you've done your evaluation of the week. So where you can literally take your intuitive sense. I want you to encourage you to take your intuitive sense of like just when you're in your good mental state and you're like your 2.0 version of yourself. Doesn't mean we have to be all like, oh my God, I'm so motivated and I can't wait to, do my intuitive scale. Like I kicked ass. We don't have to be like that, although you can be. You could just be like neutral. You could be like, there's just whatever. It was just the week of June 14th. And that's just the week it was. It doesn't have to be great. Doesn't have to be, it could even have been kind of a shitty, challenging week, but you're not in the shit show spiral, right? You have a clear mind, right? I almost kind of want to think of that too as like, when like you have a conversation with your spouse or your partner and you like, if you guys are in that like argument, like fucking, emotions are high, nobody can communicate that, right? You have to wait till the emotions lower down so we can actually think with our prefrontal cortex brain. So that's the state I want you to be in. This good, neutral mental state where you can look at the facts versus the thoughts. And so that's what you'll do in your evaluation. I would really encourage you to do that evaluation to see what worked for your week, what didn't work, really celebrate those wins so you can draw out the facts, which you did. 3 workouts this week for 30 minutes. You stayed on your plan at 70% and you drank all your water and, and had your joy eats, like kept your joy eats in check. Like you were like, felt really good about that. Okay. So then you have your actual data, the facts, and then your thoughts are in that mental space of like, okay, let's just see where I'm at. Like I want to check in with myself and see where I'm at. Or it could be I'm stoked, but you're like mentally you're there, right? So you don't have shit show thoughts and your facts are not mixed in with your thoughts saying like, you didn't do enough and that you only did, a few workouts this week. And it's like, well, I did 3 out of 4. Like that's the facts, right? So that's when I would encourage you to do your intuitive skill check-in is when you're doing your evaluation, you can separate your facts from the thoughts and your thoughts are on the wavelength of what we do here, the mindset work, we're like, this is working. I've got this. I will figure this out. I'm my 2.0 version. All of that is like going through your head when you do your intuitive skills check. We don't shit on ourselves. We don't do it when we feel like ass, right? Right? We do it either neutrally or when we're in a better state of mind. So that's really it, you guys. That's the intuitive scale, how to use it, and you know when to use it now. I did want to say one more thing about it. This is the final thing. So for example, when I've done this, I've generally I've known my weight already, right? Or maybe I stepped on the scale and I was like, okay, this is where I'm at. If you do not know your actual weight, because you're like, I'm throwing that scale away, or right now I'm not using it. I do not want to see it. I do not want to have it. Like, you do not want that to interrupt your thoughts and your progress. So if this is you, then here's how you can use this concept still so for example, the lose 7 pounds in 7 days challenge is your goal is 7 pounds, right? To lose 7 pounds, or maybe it's different, but we're going to say it's to actually lose the 7 pounds in 7 weeks. So what you would do is each week you're checking in. If your goal is like, I want to lose a pound a week. So then essentially you don't have to say, I weigh 150 pounds on week 1. So when your week 2 comes, you're like, well, I think I lost 1 to 2 pounds. So I'm 148 or 149. Like, if the number thing is kind of like, like, how do I do this? Like, if I don't know if I'm 150 pounds, how would I know I'm 48 pounds next week versus if I weigh 177 and the next week I'd be 176. So forget about the overall weight number of where you are now, the 150, the 177, the one, whatever it is, right? I just want you to think about then did I lose 1 to 2 pounds? Keep track. Next week, did I lose 0 to 1 pounds? Okay, that's what you did that week. You're just quite literally looking at the pounds lost, gained, or maintained number. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So each week when you're checking in, you're not saying, I think I weigh 138 pounds this week. And then the next week, I think I weigh 137 pounds this week, right? You're saying, I think I lost 1 pound this week. The second week, you're like, I think I maintained it and didn't lose any pounds this week, or I lost 2 pounds this week, whatever it is, or I gained a pound this week, right? So that's how you're tracking if you do not have an actual number to go up or down from. You just track the actual pounds lost or gained or maintained, right? And I just want to say one more thing about just like that weekly check-in and evaluation and using this is that you're really like, I would really implore you to write out your why. Like, you will have your evaluation to like show you your data versus your thoughts. And that is essentially your why. But I just want to say this, like, last thing is that if you're like, okay, intuitively, I feel like I lost 1, maybe 2 pounds this week. Why? If you didn't do like the full evaluation, or that's language isn't resonating with you, just answer why. To yourself, I would encourage you to write down in your notebook, but know why. Is it like, I think I lost 1 to 2 pounds because I was a great B student. I freaking ate my meals at like 80%. I, kept to 2 to 3 joy eats. I drank my water all days. I felt really light. I felt really energized. Check in mentally, like I had very little stress this week. I also got minimum 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. My pants feel a little looser. My stomach feels a little bit flatter, like, and I feel less bloated. Yeah, and I just feel really good. That could be it. But write like your why. Or if it's the opposite, if you're like, well, I went out and I had a plan and I didn't stick to it and it just got crazy and I ended up drinking a whole bottle of wine and having more drinks than I wanted. This is not with judgment or shame, but you're like, you're honoring, acknowledging the why so that you know what to do different or keep up in the next week, right? That's why we do these evaluations. So if you do your evaluation or you simply like ask yourself why for this intuitive skill concept, you definitely want to do that, right? It's going to help you hone this skill and hone in. So you know your body. Just imagine if you touch base with yourself in this way and really check in with your body and the facts, how well you will know your body. Like, what if you didn't have to weigh in and ever use a scale again in your whole life? Because you just knew. And guess what? It doesn't matter what the scale ever actually says, right? That number is a fucking concept that got created. I forget, I went down a rabbit hole about scales. It's not that long. At consumer wise, it's not been that long. It started in 1920s is what I believe. So like, we don't ever have to fucking use these things if we don't want to, right? What if that was the case? You just knew your body so good that you could get in touch with it each week. And before you know it, within 6 months or 12 months, you don't even like, that's not even, you don't even think about your weight or this concept of it because you just know what makes you feel good. You know, when you're a little on, you know, when you're a little off. And that's essentially how I do life. So like I said, I rarely generally get on the scale. And I know when I'm like at my 5 pounds winter hibernation heavier, or I've been like eating too much dessert and just like, meh, like I know that. I do not need to step on a scale to tell you that. And I also know when I'm feeling my lightest and when I'm in training mode and I'm like, all right, like here we go. We're going to do a little bit of a cut. Like I know what that looks like and feels like. I do not need a scale to tell me. And that's why I know my body so good and I am honest with myself about my habits. And I'm like, all right, girl, you've been having a little too much cake lately. Like, let's check in. I'm honest with myself. I can look myself in the mirror and say that, not like, no, I haven't been eating like shit. No, like I'm fine. I don't know why my scale's going up. I don't know what's going on. We all know. We all know. So hopefully this is a fun concept and new way of thinking about your body and how it feels and how to navigate it and opening up some doors. You can use the skill if you love it and it serves you, and you don't have to if maybe it doesn't now or in the future. Okay. I love you guys, and I will see you in another module soon.